Though drought has eased in many areas, the effects linger. While forage and pastures recover, the impact on cattle can last longer than you might think, especially when it comes to nutrition and mineral deficiencies. Let's head to Central Texas to see how producers there are tackling these challenges. Cattleman and Cattleman reporter Brian Baxter has the story.
Cow-calf and stocker operators in Texas and the veterinarians and consultants who work to support them have had their hands full the past few years managing through drought and trying to keep their cattle healthy and growing.
Rain. Everybody's hurting for it, but you get a lot of your flies problems. You got extreme rain and then you ain't got any at all. It's just fighting the elements.
Nutritionally right now, it's the drought that we've been experiencing here in Texas for at least 3 to 5 years. Some say it may be as long as 12 to 15. That's the biggest challenge for us, is proper nutrition in these cattle that's economical enough to support the business. Health issues follow hand in hand with the nutrition and problems that we have.
With all the challenges drought and lack of forage create, one of the often overlooked needs is providing adequate, consistent mineral nutrition for the cattle.
The mineral program plays overall very important in the health of the animal and their offspring. So it is a very important part of the process, and it's one that a lot of the producers, it's hard to sometimes get them to buy the feed and then the mineral, but it is a very important part of their feed program.
We leave a mineral supplement out to try to meet the animal's needs as far as copper and selenium. We found that a lot of these cattle tend to be deficient in copper and selenium, which is having a real negative effect on their immune system.
In particular, these stocker outfits, those cattle are stressed from the time that they get to these stocker outfits because they've just been weaned, they've gone through a traumatic event in their life. So anything that we can do to help promote health, like good trace mineral supplementation, is going to help us with the bottom line, because if the cattle are not healthy, they're not going to perform, and if they don't perform, they're not going to grow, and if they're not growing, they're not going to be profitable.
Even as rain returns and forage begins to improve in some areas, the animal's need for mineral supplementation remains, especially because the nutritional value of grasses vary widely.
The fact of the matter is, stocker cattle that are foraged on warm season grasses need mineral supplementation just like brood cows would in that same scenario. Our warm season forages many times are forages that are resilient, but they're also resilient at the cost of being lower in quality.
Sometimes what we don't probably understand as well as we should is what impact the drought has on forage uptake of minerals. And if we're not supplementing these cattle with minerals, some of these calves that go into market channels may be severely depleted of natural body stores of the minerals that are important to immune function and overall animal health.
Let's head back to Texas and reporter Brian Baxter with more on the role and value of mineral nutrition.
A number of producers have come to rely on Purina's Wind and Rain Mineral as a proven product that stands up to the weather, is palatable for their cattle, and delivers the consistent mineral nutrition their animals require.
The Wind and Rain Storm Mineral has been real consistent as far as cattle's intake. These cattle that are behind me here have been here about 9 days, and they've eaten about an ounce per head per day. Which might be a little low, I'm not sure, but these cattle only weigh 380 pounds. And being able to supply additional medication through that mineral and know that they're going to eat it consistently ensures some real peace of mind.
We tend sometimes to have a little wind out here, and a lot of that mineral we've used in the past and we've seen competitors use will kind of blow away. And with this wind and rain, we've got less caking on it, so if it does get wet, it's not going to be a hard crust that we've got to go back and pound on.
Just like it says, wind and rain, the elements don't seem to harm it. The cattle seem to eat it very well, and it's just a very good program. Again, getting the producer to buy into it, but once they do, it's something they keep coming back for.
The Wind and Rain Storm product, in my mind, has revolutionized the way we manage loose mineral supplementation. And what I mean by that is, when it does rain, it typically rains quite a bit. And the losses that we've incurred in the past with just traditional mill minerals has been astronomical. one of two things happens. Number one, water just stands there in the mineral feeder and the cattle can't get to the mineral. Or the second thing is that just the mineral sets up like a concrete block and the cattle can't eat it. With the storm technology on the mineral, it makes it much more moisture resistant, such that when the weather event's over and done with, the cattle can still go in there and eat the mineral at the proper level and on a more consistent basis to get the nutrition they need, regardless of the weather conditions we have.
In addition to providing consistent mineral intake, Purina's Wind and Rain also comes in a formulation with fly control, delivering another tool in the fight to keep flies from stressing cattle.
Well, I hate flies like all cattle raisers do, but there's just a real economic impact on these cattle when you've got flies chewing on them all day. Aside from just the anemia and depression and everything else, the cattle are fighting flies all day. They're sitting in the ponds or they're rubbing on everything, running around trying to get the flies off them, and they're not out hustling grass like they ought to be.
Fly control has been one of the really neat things we've been able to deliver through the mineral supplementation programs. Particularly horn fly control is what we're trying to achieve here. And what it's allowed us to do is, in a very simple, economical, and really low stress, low management type situation, get control of a horn fly, which is a drastically negative thing in a herd, particularly with cattle out on grass in the summertime. It's amazing how much money can be lost by hornfly infestation. If you think about a hornfly taking 20 to 30 blood meals per head per day, and you think about how many hornflies are on that animal at one time, you start to think, man, all the nutrition I'm putting in these cattle is being sucked out by the hornfly, and that's the last thing we want to do. So again, delivering hornfly control through the mineral supplement is a very easy, economical, and effective way of reducing the performance losses that we get from hornfly infestation.
As part of an overall fly control program, Wind and Rain Fly Control gives producers the ability to reduce fly populations and the stress and performance loss they cause without handling their cattle an additional time.
We were a little late getting started, but we were able to fly tag and treat with a fly spray in April, which gave us about 30 days to get that mineral in them to get it really started working. But cattle stayed clean all summer long. I mean, it was a real surprise to me.
We use the Wind and Rain fly control mineral, and we started using it this year. And I can tell the big difference in last year's cattle to this year's cattle is on account of, your fly control. I think the cattle's performed better on account of not having the flies pestering them so much, and you're not having to go through there gathering as often and putting your pour on it. It's just cost effective and less stress on the cattle, in my opinion.
Less stress and adequate intake of trace minerals can make all the difference in delivering a healthy animal that puts dollars on the bottom line for producers. In Central Texas, I'm Brian Baxter for NCBA's Cattleman to Cattleman.
For more information about Wind and Rain Mineral, visit the website cattle.purinamills.com.